All right. Good evening, everyone. I'm Perrin Kennedy, and I serve as the Assistant Director of Volunteerism and Alumni Communities at the New School. And I'm delighted to welcome you to the New School Alumni Presents Women in Fashion Leadership. This series is designed to bring our alumni community together to connect with remarkable New School graduates who share their expertise on topics that inspire and empower. As part of our global network of over 90,000 alumni spanning more than 130 countries, our community is filled with thinkers, innovators, and storytellers who are shaping a more just and equitable future across industries like design, fashion, education, nonprofits, and more. I encourage you to stay connected with this incredible network by joining the New School Network, our private platform exclusively for alumni. It is a great way to continue conversations, collaborate, and to celebrate the impact of our alumni worldwide. Before we begin, a quick note on housekeeping. This event is being recorded and will be shared with the audience afterward. Feel free to use the chat for general conversation. And if you have questions for our panelists, please submit them using the Q&A function at any time during this event. Now, let me introduce our panelists for the evening. Ruchira is a New York-based fashion illustrator and designer originally from Mumbai, India. A Parsons alum, she is the founder of her own brand where she creates sustainable designs using block printing and natural dyeing techniques. Her work has been featured in various fashion and design publications. Caroline is a 2019 Parsons graduate with a major in fashion design and a minor in fine arts. Known for her innovative work with bioplastics, her designs have been showcased by leading fashion and lifestyle outlets. Her art is also sold through various design and retail platforms. Priyanka is a seasoned leader and mentor with over 15 years of experience guiding global teams in the fashion industry. She is the founder of her own consulting firm, altering strategic business solutions and supporting community initiatives. Priyanka is also a dedicated advocate for the arts and an active supporter of cultural institutions. Liselle is a Parsons alum and handbag designer. Known for her elegant and vibrant designs inspired by her Miami roots and Trinidadian heritage. Her handbags are sold in numerous retail stores and have been featured in fashion and lifestyle publications. Liselle is also the founder of a women's empowerment group supporting women entrepreneurs in achieving their goals. Thank you all so much for being with me this evening. I am just over the moon to kind of learn more about your careers, kind of your paths. And so, why don't we get started here by actually taking it all the way back? Let's go to the New School and your kind of time there. What initially drew you to the New School, and how did your studies kind of shape your interest in a career in fashion? And why don't we go ahead and start with you, Liselle?
Hi, everyone. What drew me to Parsons was this juxtaposition between luxury and sustainability. I thought about what does it mean to be a top American designer? And I was like, the best designs I'm finding are all from Parsons. So I wanted to be in that renowned school. And once I was accepted, I was really excited to really pull in my old like hand stitching, like what everything I've been doing since I was a kid, to really being refined as a creative and really learning from the school how to create something meaningful as well as necessary.
Amazing, amazing. Carolyn, why don't we go ahead and get to you?
Yes, of course. I would say I am very close with my family, and I was born and raised in New York. So staying at kind of a local school was super important to me. And same thing like Liselle just had mentioned, Parsons has this amazing reputation, and all of the designers and artists that I admired went to Parsons. So I kind of was like, okay, that's the train I have to take.
Ruchira, why don't we go ahead and jump to you?
Yes. So Parsons it's a very creative school and it focuses on the process more than anything else on how to design. And which is why I wanted to learn at Parsons and take classes there.
Awesome. And Priyanka?
Hi, Perrin. Thanks for hosting the panel. And I mean, wonderful stories. This is already inspiring. So, really excited to be here. So, my journey was a little bit different because I took the route of more of the marketing and merchandising side of the business. So, I came in Parsons after already having a fashion design degree and then working as a designer. And it was part curiosity, part my love for travel. And a lot of the designers that I always admired were from New York, and Parsons being in New York was a huge motivation. And it just felt like arriving in New York and Parsons felt like such a cultural melting pot. And it just felt like I belonged. I didn't need any time to sort of acclimate, or it just felt like I was meant to be here. So that in itself speaks a lot about the culture of the school. And I loved how, progressive the thought process is, how much you get immersed in the industry. And, we'll talk about that a little bit more as we go along. But I think that was my primary motivation and attraction to the school.
I think that's such a great ending point, and it kind of highlights something that kind of everyone talked about is that so many great graduates come from the new school, Parsons, and then a number of our other programs as well. And when you're in New York City, you just get exposed to so many different people. And we'll talk a little bit about networking and event, but in a bit, but you get just exposure to all of that. And you get to go to a school with great values and prepares you to really be a leader in your industry, after you graduate. So you all went to the new school, you got your studies done, and then at some point you were like, okay, I'm going to start my own kind of brand. What kind of inspired you all to kind of go about that journey of starting your own brand, and to pursue that specific path in fashion? Um, Caroline, why don't we? Oh, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what's so interesting is that I have a bachelor's degree in entrepreneurship before I went to Parsons. And in my alma mater, I actually fell into fashion where we were making these t-shirts that lit up when you spoke. It was like revolutionary. I saw them in the club in Miami. I was like, I'm gonna do this. And then I decided to this is foreshadowing, make a handbag with the electronic thing on it. And so I just made a business from this thing. And then that was years before I went to Parsons. And then after a while I was graduating, I had tea time with the dean. He was like a British guy at the time. And I spoke with him and he's like, what do why are you here? Like it was like this one-on-one time with the dean at Parsons. And I said, I know I want to start a brand. I know I want to just do this. And he's like, well, this one thing I want to tell you is like, you have to think of like, why you? You have to answer that question and then you'll make it, which was a hard question. It took me years to answer that question. But I just knew from the get-go that I did not want to directly work with a fashion house. I felt like I don't want to be an employee and just have like a very low salary starting out. So I dived into like different things like sales and like, I was lucky enough and blessed enough to meet a couture fashion designer that already dressed Kim Kardashian with her outfits. She was also an assistant consultant. No, she was also consultant to launch executives brands. So like we were getting CEOs and executives from like Johnson & Johnson, like these other companies that she was launching their brands. And I'm her assistant running the blocks in New York City, trying to find the silk, meeting Swarovski in their showroom, going to a factory across the street that was Ralph Lauren, and we're putting like Swarovski crystals on her dresses, because she knew this person in the factory. So we're just sneaking in there, like, let's do it really quick, let's like leave, meeting jobbers in the elevator. They're like, do you want some fabric? Like, who are you? Like, it's like all that. And she allowed me to learn how to negotiate contracts, know the A to Z's of launching a fashion brand, casting models for photo shoots, just everything. And it was just definitely where I got my confidence. And this is while I was at Parsons. Okay. So this is all happening as I'm a student. And this helped me this was my foundation of launching the brand. So this is kind of like where I was like, I could do this too. Right. So.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, who wants to follow up after that? Just talking a little bit more about what inspired you.
I'll go.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would say just to start, I felt at such a young age, I was always creative and I knew I would be some sort of artist in some way. So attending Parsons for fashion design, I minored in fine art. And it was around my senior year of Parsons where I was in my thesis class and I really wanted to develop or create something that did not exist. As creating is kind of at my core. That's what I love. And it was my senior year where I really came across this bioplastic cookbook, which is now the primary material I work with. And I began experimenting with the recipes that were online, accessible to anybody. And I developed this very visually appealing textile. From there, I just began experimenting tremendously, whether it would be in sculpture, clothing, accessories. And it was around shortly after post graduation where I quickly received inquiries to collaborate with larger designers, and they wanted to possibly use some of my pieces as accessories in their show, or maybe try a new technique with the material I was working with. And I would say it was around 3 collaborations where I still did not have my brand. It was more just me working under another name or me providing work for others with their ideas. And it just got to this point where I was like, this is so special and I want it to be my own. So I'm just going to stop this right now and I'm going to work on my own thing because this is truly my own. So that is kind of what really pushed me to work for myself and just start this brand.
I love that. I absolutely love that. Yeah, who wants to go next? Priyanka, you wanna
Yeah.
okay, yeah, go ahead.
So for me, I think I had plans, but there were other plans. There was a bigger plan for me that was not my plan, but the way things went along, it was, wonderful, and I wouldn't have it any other way. So after I finished my design education and I started working as a designer, I was very intrigued. Like I used to travel a lot. I used to show in Paris, like 2 seasons a year. And I was just so intrigued working with the marketing department or the merchandising department of all of these European brands that I used to design for. And that kind of, sort of put the bug in my head that I want to learn more about the business side of things. And that's when I moved to New York. That's when I started, going to Parsons. Now, the plan was I would complete my studies at Parsons and then go back home and start my own apparel brand. But while I was on summer break, I got an internship with Prada. And that just changed my whole perspective because part of it, I also think like, I'm very thankful for the experiences and the exposure and the opportunities that Parsons offered. That there were a lot of opportunities, whether it's internship opportunities or job opportunities after graduation. And I think that kind of swayed me a little bit. It was too tempting to not learn from all of these brands that I have always admired. And I really wanted to hone in. I said, you know what, I have done designing. What does marketing look like? What does merchandising look like? Product development, market week. So before I realized I was a decade deep in the industry and leading and managing all these different aspects of the business and with great success and a great sense of satisfaction. So it took me all that time to then realize that maybe it's not a brand of my own that creates products, but more so a liaison between fashion schools and fashion the industry, or within the industry, like how do we strategize? How do I, like, I have worked with a lot of startup companies, and oftentimes, because of funding, because of resources, and also a lot of times when you are in design, like, you are so focused in design that there's sometimes not bandwidth or energy left for strategizing, marketing, market week, and those kind of meetings. So how do you work on a calendar? How do you strategize the timeline? So my motivation was to sort of fuel those startups and also work with established corporations to bring in all the knowledge I have, like the holistic industry knowledge, basically. So that has been my journey, and it all culminated into a lot of requests coming in my way, where people wanted to like hire me as a consultant, and also like my coworkers in the industry who moved on to other brands, and they reaching out and said, what do you think I should do, like what can be done here, and things like that. And I said, wait a minute, there is a need out there, like this could be a viable business and opportunity. So I think that was kind of my motivation. So it was not like a direct path. I I wouldn't have like realized if you had asked me when I started Parsons, like what's your goal, I would have like, yeah, I'm gonna start my own brand, but in a little different way, like how it all worked out.
Yeah. And I like that kind of different path that you kind of took of the more business side of fashion, of the marketing, some of the background scene stuff that is extremely important to startups kind of building up their brand. So that's really cool to hear about. Ruchira, why don't you finish us off?
Yes, yes. So I really think of fashion. I understand there's always this debate, is fashion art or, but I like to consider that both can be merged, and somehow that's always my pursuit. And I paint also with the hope that some of my paintings can be transferred into prints that can then be used for the block printing techniques or other techniques that I use. So I like to merge both ideas, and which is why I came up with this brand. And then also I started teaching, and just like how Priyanka said, like I didn't come up to a conclusion of starting a brand in the beginning, right after school, and I worked for different companies as well, and I gained experience. I learned so much from them and working with them. And after that, I still work with different brands and other companies, but at the same time, I like to combine these two elements, and that's my pursuit even in the future.
Very nice. Very nice. Thank you all for kind of sharing that insight into the inspiration. And I think something common that I heard as I heard you all speak is kind of getting some inspiration from people who really inspired you. And then also doing different work within the industry of, hey, here's something that I learned that I think I can improve upon, or something I think that I can do better. And I think something that's kind of common no matter what you do in life is, as you work your way up, there's always going to be some sort of challenge or setback. So as you all were building your brands, what were some of those big challenges that you kind of came across that like kind of stopped you in the tracks and you were like, okay, how am I going to navigate this? And how did you navigate those challenges and setbacks?
I can start first. Well, the biggest challenge for me was when I was finally ready to pay for and get my first handbag prototype ready. It cost thousands of dollars to get the first prototype because they make these blocks and all that jazz. So I was like, I'm gonna do it. Right when I was ready, the pandemic hit. So I was like, okay, how do I get my brand out in New York City? We are all locked down. I was so desperate that I found a LinkedIn coach. I literally paid him $6,000 because I was like, I need to find a way. And the funny thing is, like, he's only coaching coaches, like consultants, business people. I'm the only fashion person in that place, right? Only e-commerce, okay? No products. But I was so determined I'm going to learn. And then a year after like implementing strategies, all that stuff. I was connecting with fashion executives. I was connecting with my ideal customer, people I feel like who could afford my handbags. And then after a year, I get a knock on a door, on my little LinkedIn DM, like, hello, do you want to meet for lunch at Arno's? And I'm like, oh my goodness, I think this is how it looks like in the movies. And that's really what happened. And from then, I was introduced to the fashion industry, the executives, they wanted to work with me. And I then did prepare years for this, right? Because Parsons and all stuff. So I was like, I have my house, I have my good job, I got everything. This is all bootstrapped. I sold my house, right? Because I had to come up with the production funds, right? So I sold the house. I had more money still. Like, let's go, let's get the credit going, right? But there was a time where I had to find $30,000 in a week. And I'm like, how am I gonna do this? So I'm praying, I'm talking to my assistant, like, we're gonna get through this week, like all that stuff, like, talking good, like we're gonna get there, like that really helps. And then sometimes magic does happen, right? Sometimes things just work. And I would say another challenge because, going from like a startup, like they're starting from like in my debut, or we launch into like the big stores, into 15 stores across the nation with the top brands. It was really interesting that we get this big $250,000 order in like 6 months, and we get another big order, and we're like, okay, how are we going to fund this? And then we got to find a factor, and we find the factor, but then I realized that, okay, to really scale this business, because I'm not from a family of wealth, but even if someone's super wealthy, they need to know this dynamic of like this ratio factor. So I'll just kind of share it here while everyone's here. And I feel like this is the best factor. Like, you need to have a 2-to-1. So you have to have like double the amount of cash on hand, or you have a bank behind you for that. Because what if, and thank goodness nothing happened to me, but like if the production goes wrong, then what will happen then? You don't have the cash there for like to fix it and all that stuff. So like, have a 2-to-1 or even a 3-to-1 ratio of cash on hand in case something does happen, because it can happen in the fashion industry, as well as keeping your profit margins high enough where they're above 25% if you can. Like, because if there's a 25% tariff that hits in a foreign country, or like something happens with shipping, it can really throw off your margins. So make sure that your shipping costs, your operating expenses, and your store order amount, whatever it is, because the stores don't give you the money. I was like, everyone knows, the stores will not give you the money to do your production. They will pay you in that 90 days after production. So you're like, where's this money? Got the order, but now you need the cash. So like, make sure that your store order, your shipping, your operating expenses are built in, saved, and then you're ready to go. So I'm telling this to the people now as your time machine. Yeah, because it's really important.
Liselle, that's like logistics 101. We should have like a course on that.
Yeah.
Person.
Yes. EDI, putting the labels on proper, not getting tagged by the store. Those things, learning that, like doing it with the team, but being as good as anyone as well. So that way you're not just a designer, like, oh, I'm just designing this beautiful bag I have. Like, it was crazy in a good way that I'm on the Zoom calls with these stores, but I'm presenting my collection, I'm explaining the logistics, I'm explaining everything. And they're like, wow, it's like, for you to, as a designer, you also know the business side. Like, that's how they were able to trust me and get the big orders. So,
Nice.
yeah.
Nice. Yeah, thank you for that. Thank you for like really going into detail, having cash on hand. That's very important. Very nice. Priyanka, why don't you go next?
Mine was, I think one of the roadblocks that I experienced early on was the transitioning from, when you have conversations with your peers in the industry and you're discussing strategy, you're discussing like, what could we do to like kind of attain this, whether it's a startup, whether it's, an established brand. It's more of, conversation. And sure, end of the day, there's like conclusive like solutions to the problems we might have discussed, but converting that into a business and sort of having the conversation in a very different way that, this is now the time is money. So every time we speak, like that's kind of my fees, and that there's going to be a contract. So I think that transition sometimes could be a bit tricky because you worked with the industry for so long, you have those relationships, those networks, and they value you, but sort of like a mind shift that, hey, this is just going to be business now, right? So that was an interesting shift, I think. But I think the most important part in all of this is just be consistent, have a consistent message, and firm and consistent. I think, that's the most important. And then people will be like, yeah. I mean, they'll respect you more for that, versus there might be a little bit of a discomfort going into it because like, wait a minute, what? Like, but I think in the long run, you need to have those conversations up front and be clear about agreements and contracts and things like that, for sure.
Hey, time is money. I love that statement. You are absolutely right. Great. Who wants to go next?
I'll go.
Great.
I would say a challenge is patience. I would say, you're going to Parsons, you're in the best school, you're doing like all the work, you have a great internship, you're meeting all these connections, and it's very, hopeful to think that like right after you graduate, you're just gonna like go off and blossom. And I think it's a very, uh, it's that's not the case. I think you have to really just have patience and self trust with what you're doing. And I think to where I am now, it took hundreds of rejections, and every little small victory I celebrate. And I think kind of having that momentum and that energy around every success, whether it be big or small, is what keeps the brand growing. And I think that's just a challenge that everybody's going to face because we all want the best right now, right? So I think it's something that I've had to learn being, I'm a Leo, I'm a fire sign. Like I want to like go all the time. And I've really had to learn to like slow down. And I think slowing down, there's actually some of the most beautiful things come out of that. So that's kind of been a challenge.
Mhm. Wow. Yeah, really, you got to enjoy the journey.
Right.
Don't force it. Enjoy the journey, celebrate the small things, and build up to the big things. I think that's, such wonderful advice for
Yeah.
life in general as well. Yeah.
I would say too, really quickly on also the note of contracts and all of that, you can be super excited to take on a new project or task or something or collaboration, but you really have to think if this will align with you and um, make you happy. And I think just like learning to put your foot down too and truly stand up for yourself is something I've also learned. Graduating like 5 years ago now, I've grown so much, just saying no. Yeah, so that's kind of another skill and a challenge. That's something I've learned.
And Ruchira.
Yes. So for me, the biggest challenge and how to overcome it has always been um, persistence and consistent efforts till we see the positive outcome. So I would say like there have been times where it doesn't click or a certain design doesn't click or finding the right customer or the niche or anything even in the design or the pattern or something doesn't work, but just having persistence and putting in those efforts, knowing that it will work out okay, is what I think has been helpful for me.
Nice. I really like that, having a positive mindset of things will work out, even if there's setbacks, things will definitely work out. So that is awesome. Thank you all for sharing that. And kind of moving on here, uh, you know, thinking about going from the challenges and setbacks to kind of, the business of fashion. What are some strategies that have helped you gain visibility, and stand out in the industry? Because it feels like every day there's a new kind of fashion thing going on. I kind of look at it and I'm like, I don't know how I can keep up. But yeah, how do you all stay kind of competitive in that space?
Yeah, I'll start. So essentially what helped me from the beginning, even that works even now, is really connecting with the customers on a one-on-one basis. And the way to do that is, well, there's two types of customers on my end. It was the big retailers. So you want to work with them directly. They'll ask you, okay, so how are you going to promote? So even if they want to come and work with you, they're going to ask you, how are you going to promote them? So then we would do certain campaigns. I would say you could, I'm Liselle Kiss, right? So I'm like, I'll volunteer to be part of your social media, right? I'll talk about, how Nordstrom or, the brand I'm currently with at the time, how we're working together. So like you definitely want to volunteer and put yourself out there. If you're the brand face of a fashion brand, like tell the stores, like I will be there, because it's not a given. There's some designers who do not show up to the stores and they don't have that. So if you say you want to be the face, actually it's a big deal to say. So I do want to let you guys know that. So I did visit like over 10 to 15 retail stores. Like we're in Chicago, Los Angeles, Miami. I flew to those locations. I talked to the customers, I talked to the sales team. I was talking to them like, well, you're just like normal. I'm like, you're normal too. Like, and they actually feel this genuine connection with you. And then the bag sales start to skyrocket because they actually know you. So it's very important that when you get that opportunity with a big retail chain, you want to tell them specifically that you're going to be there. Now, for those people who are not in retailers yet, and they are just starting an e-commerce brand like on Shopify or something like that, the thing that really helped me a lot, and this is something you just don't want to take for granted, is literally cold DMing. There is a marketing statistic that does work. You'll get a 1 to 3% ratio based on whatever you ask. So if you ask for a sale, you get a sale. Depending on the message, make sure the copy is not too long. You can put a direct link. You can ask if they want a link. You can give them a coupon code. But just by DMing, you can DM people on Twitter, DM them on Instagram, DM them on TikTok. Have an assistant do it, hire someone on Fiverr and do it. But you will get some sales. And I got a couple $1,000s worth of sales just by DMing and being consistent like that. Like I'm just telling you guys, I'm giving you guys everything because, the simple things of connecting with someone online, what is that? Like, hello, how are you? Right? You can also do what helped me too when I launched my brand. I had a viral campaign. I use this software called Up Viral. So it's called Up Viral. Very good. It helps get your brand viral. People start sharing, things like that. So I use that for my brand. I went from like 0 to like 200 emails like in a week, so like you get a lot of good emails. And then also, yeah, I think that's kind of like what happened. And oh, very important because I'm into slow fashion. Like my brand started off for slow fashion. People waited about 6 to 8 months for a Liselle Kiss bag for my very first collection. So this is like one of my first collection bags. They waited 6 to 8 months because I said I'm a slow fashion designer. And this before like the retailers came in and then we start, making all these bags. But like they waited because I was very clear on my brand strategy and they waited. So people, even the cold DMing will wait for your stuff, if you let them know. So that's kind of like the strategy to be visible in the online space, and then tell the retailers that you are going to work with them. Whatever you guys want me to do, I'll be there. I'll fly. Tell them that. So yeah.
Very nice, very nice. I love that you were just out there and you were like, I'm gonna put myself out there and see what connections I can get. Very nice. Ruchira, do you want to go next?
Yes. So, I really, sorry, what was the question? I lost it.
Just in terms of how you helped gain visibility for your brand, and how you kind of stood out in the industry, or how you make yourself stand out in the industry.
Yes. So, reaching out actually by using cold calling or emailing and sending like also by letting people know what you're doing, and so they know that this is what is happening and this is what she's been working on, and also reaching out to mentors because sometimes they or teachers in the past that I have studied under, like sometimes they give you like nice ideas or contacts to networks to people in the industry, and then I would reach out to them and then they would help me like, oh, okay, you can do this or do that, because not all the time I know everything, and so I need help, and which is why I realized I should take help when I need it, and that is my plan even in the future.
Very nice. Amazing. Okay. Um, Carolyn or Priyanka. Priyanka, I saw you on mute.
Yeah, sure. So I think because I'm more on the advisory side of the spectrum. I feel like first and foremost, like knowing yourself and knowing your brand, right? When you are walking a room, like what do you represent? When you like what do you stand for? And because it's all about the relationships and it's all about the people you have worked with, and you know that brings in future sort of partnerships, opportunities. And it's very important that you can come across as someone who is trustworthy and understands the business. So I think in my case, just having that holistic knowledge and experience in working different aspects of fashion and working with so many different professionals who came from like a design background like myself, or management, or consulting, or production. It's just sort of, and I'm jumping a little bit forward to, I think we were going to talk about networking as well. And I think that's where like every person you touch along your process, along your day-to-day, experiences at work professionally, you're networking. And it doesn't have to be a separate project where you're like, today I'm going to network on this platform or that. Sure, that could be a process, that could be a way to go about it, but you're networking constantly. So building your brand, building your knowledge of the industry, of the product, or the specialty that you want to focus on, I think all of that comes together. And when you have those conversations, it shows. So that is something I feel is is a huge asset.
Nice. Carolyn, why don't you finish us off?
Yes. So I would say one strategy that I stand by fully is the cold emailing, cold DMing. That for me was seriously a huge tool that connected me with people that I was actually surprised that they would answer so fast. So that was definitely something. And I would also say attending all different types of industry events, even if it seems like it might be something, I don't know, like a little bit not in your world. Like let's say it's like some little music event, something, but you should just go, because that somebody at that music event may be making your soundtrack for your runway in a few years, right? So you really have to think 360, and everybody can help that wants to be involved. And that leads me to then being very open to collaboration. I think collaboration for my brand specifically is what really kind of grew and leveled me up, I guess I would say, where being open to collaboration and using that collaboration to then pitch to the next person you'd be interested in collaborating with, because then they see, oh, this person knows how to collaborate, and they know you have that experience. So I think sort of to say almost use every little experience, leverage that for the next. Um, and those are some strategies I used. And then as I got a little bit bigger, or I made a few sales, I then started saving that money, and I prioritized hiring a PR, a publicist. I think that was kind of like my big first expense as a brand. And I work with them, and there's constant pulls of my clothing and my artwork, and that's really how many eyes will see your work, and exposure will just grow. So I think exposure for me was really big in the beginning, and that ultimately leads to sales.
Nice. Nice. And I think everybody touched on this, and Priyanka, you kind of alluded to this, is the importance of networking, the importance of just kind of putting yourself out there. And I'm curious if you all have any, kind of stories on mentorship. How did you cultivate that? How did you find a mentor? And I think even to go a little bit further than that is, how did you know when a relationship needed to end? And so, yeah. Liselle, I see you're already unmuted. Let's go ahead.
So I actually tapped into my network. But before I came to New York City, I'm in Miami, and I told all my friends I'm going to New York City to be top American designer. And then they're like, one girl, her name's Gina. She was like, I know a friend in New York who's a designer. Maybe I can connect you with her, because I spoke and told people what I'm up to, and I didn't know I needed a mentor yet. So when I went to New York, I connected with her, and she was the person that helped me get this intern fashion job at Parsons where I learned the whole business. That relationship ended when, her personality is very different from mine, and then we were kind of clashing. And I said, well, I actually have this other opportunity. So you always want to like look as if when you're going to different, you say, I'm actually going to this other opportunity here, but I'm just so thankful that you helped me here. And yeah, because people who work with you, no matter like if the relationship is good or bad or weird or whatever, if you tell them that you're moving on to something better, like in a good way, like without like any weirdness, like, you have those conversations, like that helps. So it's just by saying, I found a new opportunity and I really love you, but I have to go here, like that kind of way is easy. And then outside of that, I will just utilize LinkedIn. If I found someone, I always connect with people who I'm like, oh, she's a celebrity stylist. She's this person. Let me just talk to her, be in her DMs and say, hey, do you want to meet really quick? Like quick chat on Zoom, 15, 20 minutes on like coffee little thing. And it works. Like people just love to kind of have a quick conversation with a random person that seems interesting, right? So I'm a designer, so I would milk that create. So that's one thing I wanted to say to everyone here. Like milk your creativity on LinkedIn. There's not a lot of creatives on LinkedIn that say they're creative. So if you're saying, hey, I'm this creative person doing X, like, then they're gonna be like, oh, it's interesting, let's talk. Like, because you're not like a corporate person in a sense, you know what I mean?
Very nice. Okay. Yeah, Priyanka.
Um, I think that's a great point about, how to end, because I think oftentimes, more often than not, we make it more complicated in our heads, and we feel it's going to be awkward. How am I going to say? Like, I don't want them to feel bad. And in reality, I think if you just say it, if you just, have that conversation and be respectful and be professional about it, no one really holds it against you. But I think when you are in the moment, it feels awkward. And also, you don't have the experience that, we are all here. We have had those experiences and we are sharing this. And hopefully this will help someone who's, going into this phase of their professional life. But it's really not that big a deal, you guys. I mean, it's just a matter of an honest conversation. Keep it simple, keep it kind. And wherever they have helped you, because of course they're in your lives as mentors, because there has been, that point in time where they were guiding you in something, and just be thankful, be like, show your gratitude, and moving on is, it's always, it works out. So that's the tough question, right? Like, how do we end anything, for that matter, any relationship? But in terms of like finding mentors, I think it's just, sort of, you have to put the awkwardness out of this whole like networking, mentorship, relationship, because I have been on both ends of the spectrum. I have mentored current students, alums, and I still do that. That's something that's one of the passions, and I really, enjoy having those conversations. And I have had mentees for 10 years now as well, and I have mentors who have been in my life for a long time. And I think it's just a matter of like, always like keeping your eyes open in terms of who motivates me, who do I feel like, I want to be a piece of that person, like when I grow up, you know what I mean? And just like going up to them and say that, I really admire you for XYZ, and I would love to sort of pick your brain, like once in a month I will reach out, like maybe we can have coffee. So have that conversation, sort of back it up with why you admire them, why you want to be, a mentee, and then also sort of, everybody's really busy, right? So you just don't want to say nice things and not follow it up with, how about, kind of come up with like a schedule, like maybe once a month, maybe once a quarter, like, and work with that and stay consistent with that. I think a lot of mentors actually feel flattered, and they will be happy to like sort of share their experience, advice. So yeah, that's my sort of experience with this mentor-mentee relationship.
Nice.
But it's really important. I mean, it is, I highly recommend, to sort of have, we all look up to professionals that we work with or we aspire to work with. So just reaching out to them, and maybe you'll get a no, we move on, right? We always need to have that growth mindset that it's a no for now, but, we have to move on and, try again. So.
Nice. Ruchira, why don't you go next?
Yes. So I am of the opinion that I don't think if a relationship should end anytime. I understand sometimes it can drift apart, but there's always a chance, and especially with like professional relationships, you should always keep in touch once in a while, even if it is at the verge of ending, I would say, because you never know, you might need some help or they might need some help and it can revive. So I would say it's always a constant that we keep it like we keep some sort of connection. And I would say I have had a lot of luck with finding a mentor and learning from them, and sometimes they gave me a constructive criticism that has helped me in my journey. So, and you're always grateful and thankful for all the stuff that they give you in terms of knowledge. So yeah.
Nice. And Carolyn, finish us off.
Yes. So I have actually not had a mentor. I would love one. Um, but I would say it was my senior year of Parsons, and formed this wonderful relationship with my thesis professor. His name is Marcus Humer. And we were immediately just connected from first class. And actually, to this day, he lives a few blocks away from me. So we still will meet up, and I'll pass ideas by him. And anytime I have a big project coming up, I'll have him over to kind of critique it in a way. And that relationship to me is so special, and I hold that so close to my heart. I think to have somebody like that that's kind of seen my practice from the beginning. So that is something that all of you that have a professor you like, I think even just forming that strong relationship is super important. And as far as networking, yes, networking has played a major role in my brand. Without networking, I wouldn't be here. I think even this, right? We connected, and I'm now speaking. I think my first job after graduation was working in a retail store. I was that what I really wanted? No, I wanted to go right into design, but I was patient and I went into a retail position. And believe it or not, the people that were in the retail space with me all were super creative and super hardworking, and they all went up to higher positions in design roles. So 5 years down the line, I now have a wonderful group of people that all work at amazing companies that have referred me or given me advice. So that's all networking. Don't think for a second, even if you work at a grocery store or something that is not desirable to you, those people you never know where you'll see them and how they may help you or you can help them. So again, yeah, no burning bridges, all the stuff like that.
Amazing. Thank you all so much for that transparency related to that question. I think just as important as it is to build relationships, sometimes also relationships have to end. And so being able to recognize that and have the self-awareness, I think is something that our audience can definitely learn from. And so to be respectful of time, for these next two questions, I'm going to combine them together. And so just keep your answer pretty short. But where do you see your brand going in the future? And if you could roll back the clock and give yourself one piece of advice, what would that be? And Liselle, let's start it off.
So one thing I'm excited about my brand is that we are going back to slow fashion. I want to go back from ready to wear with the bigger retailers to made to order. And I also want to create a vertical for customers so that way maybe one day they could, get a Liselle Kiss bag. And I think that's really through personal development and inner work that I feel like is kind of missing in the fashion industry. And then what I would tell my inner self or my child self back then, I would tell her to continue to stay the course and be yourself always. Don't let anyone change you, like when it comes to your values. You can grow, but don't get bitter if things don't work out. Just stay, have that heart, that love in your heart always. Just do continue being yourself and change you depending on who you're around and you're surrounded with. So I just realized if I just stay the course of who I am, I always will be. And that's my thing.
I love that. Be true to yourself. All right. Carolyn, do you want to go next?
Sure. So yeah, where do I see my brand evolving? I would say next month I am coming out with a accessory launch. So really delving into more of my bioplastic work, accessories, vessels, and clothing, of course. Hoping to really get a stronger name in the ready-to-wear space, partner with more people. Collaboration's always open, everyone. And I would say one piece of advice I would give to my younger self is don't waste time with people or spending time with people that don't believe in you or maybe laugh at your ideas, even if it's like a joke. I think there's really something to be said about strong relationships and positive support in your life. And I think I would tell myself to not waste time, because I definitely wasted time with people that might have laughed at my work or thought it would look cheap or something like that. And I didn't let that get to me because I trusted myself. And like Liselle said, just really maintaining who you are.
Mm, I love that. Priyanka?
Yeah, so I think my vision is I have already ventured into fundraising for causes and to support the community. I just want to see that scale to the next level at a bigger picture, bigger collaborations. So that's definitely one of the things that I'm working hard towards. And also, sort of bringing a whole different idea of collaboration in the fashion industry, because I think we do collaborate at brand level, but when it comes to, for example, Fashion Week, I mean, there's so much, like we have been following the same playbook for a while. So I think there is room there to sort of give the platform to collaborative designers, and just kind of have a new narrative there, like refresh the narrative basically. So that's kind of in works. So that's as far as evolution is concerned. And advice to my younger self, I think it's just we all know that you have to work really hard to get to where we are all today, and sometimes we forget to celebrate ourselves, and we just move to the next goal too quickly and start working towards it too quickly before even pausing to breathe or to just take a minute. And I wish I would have done that, because you know today what I am is because of my yesterday, and I feel like I deserve that little pat on the back from myself. I got it externally, but internally I just felt I have to keep going, and it was like really hard on myself. And I think that would be something that I would change.
Nice. And Ruchira?
Yeah, so for future, I would say that I want to make like more prints and more paintings that can be transformed into my work. And then would love to have more collaboration with artisans so that there's and like seeing what opportunity there is. I currently work with them, but having more sort of dialogue. And a thing I would say to my younger self is to be happier,
Hmm.
and being grateful with what I have and what I had in the past.
I think that's beautiful. Be happy, where you're at with the journey and the process. I really love that.
Without worrying about the destination and just enjoying the process of getting there
Mhm.
rather than the final goal.
I love that. That's beautiful. And thank you all for kind of answering my questions tonight. We have a couple of questions from the audience that I'm going to ask here. And just for time purposes, maybe we'll do one or two responses and keep them pretty short. But first here, I am currently a junior, and I am in the stages where some brands are reaching out to me for some of my techniques with design. What advice would you give to young designers slash entrepreneurs for the next steps on being a successful entrepreneur?
I would say one thing that just came to the top of my head is if people are already reaching out for your technique or something like that, make sure you come up with some sort of even very simple contract on Google Docs where you maintain rights to your work and you're credited and everything, and have that person sign off on it. I think that's like the first step of just really maintaining this professional relationship and also maintaining integrity with your brand. So I would say that is the first step.
Great. One more response. Anybody? All good?
Well,
Oh,
I'll
Liselle?
second that.
Yep.
As an yeah, I'm gonna second that. As an entrepreneur, I'm learning that designers are commodities in the fashion industry. I just want everyone to know that we're commodities. So do not let yourself feel as if like your design is not good enough. No, 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 no. They need ideas, right? AI cannot come up with your ideas. So I want you to know that you are a commodity. And so in that sense, you might come across people who see you as a commodity, treat you like a commodity, make you sign contracts as a commodity, where you could give up your rights or like, you're just working for them. It's really good to bring your own contract to the table, like what she mentioned. Make sure you have a lawyer. Like show up that you're ready, that you're professional, like, and then they'll take you serious. That's my biggest thing. Like you are a diamond in this industry and they need your ideas.
Nice. Thank you. All right, next here we have what kind of people would you cold email/DM and what kind of format would you follow? Also, where did you find these events to attend? Why don't we have one response for this?
And one
Yep.
response. Find whoever you emulate as a brand, find their social media account, right? And then you find their followers, find the comments, you find their profiles, you DM them. Okay.
Fantastic. Okay, next question here. What advice do you have for students with a small brand looking to grow? And we'll do one response for that.
I think first step is to identify and have a very clear brand recognition and like who you are, your brand identity, and where do you see yourself, and then start reaching out to those tiers, whether it's a department store, whether it's a online retailer, whether it's a marketplace. So once you have that clarity and like where in the industry does is it a bridge brand, is it a mass brand, is it a couture brand, you will then like relate it to where do I reach out to the Bergdorfs, or do I reach out to the Targets? Like where is my client, and so on and so forth. And that's how you start reaching out, and sort of that's the cold calling, the emailing, the DMing, putting yourself out there. So that's like I would say that would be the first step.
Awesome. And last question that we'll do here is, do you have any thoughts regarding formalized copyright for your designs if you have yet to develop a brand? Anybody?
Yeah. That's a great question. And yeah, long answer short is yes. I think when you realize you have something that maybe you've invented, or it's your own trademark design or technique, I think it is important to speak with somebody to see what sort of protection you can get. About 2 years ago, I started receiving a lot of voices like, oh, what if they copy you this, this, this? And finally, I just spoke with someone and they said, yeah, you can file a design utility patent. So that is what I did. And I think just knowing that is kind of a peace of mind. But yeah, I would definitely want to know a little bit more about the whole copyright process, but it is important.
And
Very nice.
yeah,
Oh,
I
yeah.
think like just a quick note, because I know there is a cost and a time sensitivity involved when you have to file these official paperwork with the right administrations. But I would say that just the basic, like, we just talked about the Google Doc agreements, just to have something official in writing to begin with is very important to protect your work and have it signed by, the parties involved.
Thank you for that additional information. I think that's really important to understand for building a brand. And thank you for all the questions. As we kind of talked about earlier, this recording will be shared after this meeting. I want to give you all a second to say any final closing words in case that people want to reach out or where they can learn more about your brands. So yeah, go ahead. It,
I'll go.
uh, okay.
Well, I just wanted to thank you so much, Perrin, for coordinating this talk. It was super inspiring, and I'm honored to be part of it. So thank you. For all the students out there, just know that I am fully open to any more questions you may have. You can reach me, Caroline Zimbalist at gmail.com. I'm happy to meet for a coffee. I really love meeting new people and people in the creative space. So if I could share any more knowledge with you, I'd be more than happy to.
Great. Yep, Liselle. Yep.
Yeah, so again, thank you so much for this panel. I definitely want to say to those out there with a dream to never give up. It doesn't matter if it takes 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, as long as you're breathing, do what you love. So I would say if you want to connect with me on LinkedIn, make sure that you do. Just put a comment like in the connection request. Please say that you came from this panel, and then I'll make sure I'll go ahead and accept you and we could chat on the DM.
Nice.
Thank you so much for coordinating this event. I really enjoyed speaking. And if anyone wants to reach out to me, my email is ruchiramare@gmail.com.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you for everyone who attended. And I hope this panel, I mean, for me, it was very inspiring. I learned a lot from my fellow panelists, and I hope it was the same for everyone. And again, I'm definitely on LinkedIn, so please just mention that this is how you found out about me. And, I'm happy to meet, talk. And yes, Perrin, I mean, amazing. I hope this is the first of many to come.